The crimson light of Xylos, a dying star, painted the obsidian walls of the conclave chamber in hues of blood and shadow. Whispers, like the rustling of dry leaves across a barren plain, filled the vast space. The grand emissary, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the oppressive light, stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Accord. His 6 multifaceted eyes, usually radiating an air of serene wisdom, now flickered with a disquiet he couldn't quite contain. The silence that had fallen upon the chamber was heavier than the gravity of Xylos itself, a suffocating blanket woven from fear and uncertainty. The crisis, the unprecedented emergence of the species designated humans, had thrown the delicate balance of the Accord into disarray, a storm threatening to tear apart the fabric of galactic peace. Their arrival, a sudden, blinding flash across the sensorium, had been a harbinger of change, a threat to the established order. Now the fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the grand emissary was charged with navigating the treacherous currents of first contact. "The reports are disturbing," the grand emissary finally began, his voice a low, resonant rumble that echoed across the chamber. He gestured with a slender, delicate appendage towards the holographic display that dominated the center of the room. It flickered with images, crude, almost primitive representations of the humans' vessels. They were angular, asymmetrical, and utterly unlike anything the Accord had ever encountered. Their technology, while not sophisticated, is clearly effective. Their combat capabilities, based on the limited engagements we've witnessed, are concerning. A ripple of unease passed through the assembled delegates. The Xylar, a species renowned for their tactical acumen, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Krill, known for their aggressive expansionism, chittered in a manner that was both nervous and excited. The grand emissary continued. The initial assessment of their technology was flawed. The First Fleet underestimated their capacity. The casualties are unacceptable. He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to sink in. The silence in the chamber intensified, punctuated only by the low hum of the life support systems. The deaths of the warriors who had first engaged the humans were a wound that would take generations to heal. A deep sigh escaped the emissary's multifaceted lips. The elders had been so sure of their advantage. Centuries of interstellar travel, millennia of technological development, and the experience of countless conflicts. They had anticipated a swift victory, a show of force that would quickly subdue the newcomers. Instead, they had stumbled into a situation they didn't fully understand. The humans were an enigma, a puzzle wrapped in a riddle. Their motives were unclear, their origins shrouded in mystery. They had appeared seemingly from nowhere, a sudden anomaly in the established order of the galaxy. "Their intentions remain ambiguous," he added, his voice laced with caution. "We have received no communication, no demands, no overt displays of aggression, but neither have we been offered any sign of peace. They move with purpose, with a coordinated efficiency that belies their apparent technological shortcomings." A representative from the Krill Empire, a hulking figure with mandibles that clicked in a threatening rhythm, stepped forward. "Ambiguity is a luxury we cannot afford, Grand Emissary. They pose a threat. The loss of the First Fleet is proof enough. We should initiate a preemptive strike. Annihilate them before they become a danger to the Accord." A chorus of protests erupted throughout the chamber. The Xylar, the Zidonians, and other delegates, representing civilizations who had spent their existence advocating for peace, voiced their opposition. The Krill were notorious for their warmongering, their insatiable hunger for conquest. Their proposal was the simplest solution, but the most dangerous. The Grand Emissary raised a hand, silencing the uproar. "Patience, Ambassador Krell. I understand your concerns, and the Council acknowledges the gravity of the situation. However, a preemptive strike without knowing their intentions could ignite a galactic conflict of unimaginable scale. We must proceed with caution. We must understand the nature of this threat before we react. War is a last resort. Diplomacy must be exhausted first. We must understand the enemy before we destroy them." He turned towards the holographic display, the images of the human vessels reflecting in his multifaceted eyes. "Their vessels are crude but effective. Their weapons, despite their primitive design, have proven devastating. Their tactics are unconventional, unpredictable, but there is a pattern, a precision to their movements, a coordination that exceeds all prior analysis. I have a hunch. I believe that there is more to them than what we see, and the possibility that we have underestimated them is something we must now address." The representative from the Zidonian collective, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering crystalline form, spoke, their voice a melodic hum that resonated through the chamber. "The humans' lack of communication is unsettling, Grand Emissary. If they seek conflict, why do they not declare it? If they desire peace, why do they not extend a hand? Are they waiting, observing, planning something that we cannot perceive? The question hung in the air, a silent echo of the fear that gripped the Accord. The mystery of the humans was a dark void, and it was beginning to consume them. The Council had already spent cycles debating their actions and potential intentions, with no clear conclusion. The Grand Emissary pondered the Zidonians' question, searching for an answer. The humans' silence, the absence of any overtures, was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of their arrival. It was as though they were observing, studying the galaxy before deciding how to proceed. A nervous cough from a delegate brought him back to reality. The Xylar representative, a tall, slender being with a crest of delicate frills, spoke. "Perhaps we should attempt communication again, Grand Emissary. A formal embassy, a gesture of goodwill. Perhaps their silence is born of misunderstanding, of fear. We could offer them alliance." The proposal was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a sign of weakness, an invitation to a confrontation. Others saw it as a necessary step towards peace, a way to avoid a devastating war. The Grand Emissary considered the options. Diplomacy in the face of such an unknown adversary was a treacherous path, fraught with danger, but it was the only path that could lead to peace. "It is a risky move," he admitted. "But it may be the only move. We cannot afford to sit on our hands. We will send a delegation, a vessel unarmed carrying an envoy of the Accord. They will present an olive branch. They will offer a path to understanding, and they will listen. This is the only way to understand them, to understand their intentions before we are doomed." The Grand Emissary had spent several cycles preparing for the inevitable encounter. The diplomatic vessel, christened the Harbinger, had been constructed, its hull designed to withstand the harsh realities of space, and its internal systems equipped with the latest advancements in communications technology. The delegation included representatives from the most influential species in the Accord, the wise Xylar, the calm Zidonians, and a few others whose skills and knowledge could be crucial in this first encounter. They were charged with making first contact, offering a hand of peace to a species that had already proved to be both powerful and enigmatic. They would travel to the edge of known space to rendezvous with the humans, to their designated territory. The thought of this journey, of the possible unknown, stirred anxiety in the delegation's hearts. The humans had already destroyed one fleet, and there was no guarantee they would be more willing to negotiate. This would be the most important diplomatic mission in the history of the Accord, one that could determine the fate of galaxies. The journey was long and arduous. The Harbinger moved through the void at speeds that strained the ship systems, traveling to the outer edges of the human sector. When they arrived, the delegation was met with a sight that was both terrifying and astonishing. The vast expanse of space around them was filled with ships. They were the same angular, asymmetrical designs as the ones seen on the holographic displays in the conclave chamber. But there were more, far more. It was as if the humans had been waiting for them, prepared for a battle they seemed to know would happen. The first wave, which had so easily defeated the first fleet sent by the Accord, had been a prelude. The Zidonian representative, gazing out into the stardusted void, communicated their observation telepathically to the rest of the delegation. "They are many," it said, its voice a cascade of crystalline tones. "Far more than the initial reports suggested. They are a fleet." The Xylar representative's frills bristled. The Grand Emissary had informed them of a large fleet, but this was a scale that even he had not anticipated. The sight was overwhelming. The humans had constructed an armada of unimaginable proportions. The scale of it was almost incomprehensible. "Prepare for battle," the Krill representative, Ambassador Krell, rasped, his mandibles clicking. "It is clear they are ready for war." The anticipation of the confrontation sent a shiver of fear through the delegation. The only hope they had was the diplomatic mission the Grand Emissary had entrusted them with. Then, from the myriad of human vessels, a single ship detached itself. It was smaller than the rest, but possessed of an air of authority. It moved towards the Harbinger asterisk, its approach steady, its trajectory unwavering. The vessel emitted a series of signals designed to be understood by all, but those signals, instead of conveying threats or hostility, contained music. A complex and beautiful symphony, filled with instruments and melodies that were unfamiliar to the Accord, yet strangely compelling. The signal repeated, a gesture of communication. Then a voice, a language they did not understand, but which was accompanied by universal pictograms projected across the screens. A picture of a hand extending towards another, a symbol of peace. The delegation, stunned, stared at the display. The image of the hand, the music, the sheer multitude of vessels, all spoke of the unexpected. The humans had deployed a fleet of incredible scale, capable of annihilating them in a moment, yet they were offering peace. The Grand Emissary's gamble, the risk of sending the Harbinger, had paid off. The Krill, however, did not have the temperament for diplomacy. "Fools," Ambassador Krell snarled. "It is a trap." The Xylar representative turned towards the Krill, his expression grave. "Perhaps, but it is a trap we must enter if we are to truly understand." The ambassador looked at the Xylar with disdain. "Are you advocating for surrender, Xylar? Should we just give in?" He could not believe that one of the oldest species in the galaxy could be so foolish. The Zidonian, the calmest of the delegation, spoke, its crystalline form radiating a gentle light. "Patience, Ambassador Krell. We are here to learn. We are here to understand. We cannot judge until we know." The Krill, though seething, held his tongue. He was outnumbered, and he knew that there was no way to stop the other members of the delegation from pursuing diplomacy. But he did so unwillingly, always waiting for the opportunity to strike to prove his point. The delegates, after a brief and heated discussion, decided to respond to the humans. They were entering an unknown and dangerous situation, but they had to pursue the course of action they had agreed upon. The Harbinger maneuvered, its navigation systems guiding it towards the lone human vessel. As they approached, the image of the humans was projected upon the ship's view screen. The humans were surprisingly diverse. Some were tall, others short. Some had smooth skin, others were covered in fur. But they all shared a common trait, an expression of calm and focused intensity. They did not appear hostile, nor did they seem afraid. They were curious. The Harbinger docked with the human vessel. The doors hissed open, and the delegation entered. They were ushered into a clean, minimalist chamber. There, seated around a large table, were several humans. They were dressed in functional uniforms, their faces devoid of emotion, their eyes trained upon the delegates with a level of scrutiny that was unnerving. The lead human, a woman with short, dark hair and eyes that held a hint of steel, rose to her feet. She spoke in their language, the voice clear and precise. "Welcome. We are the United Earth Federation. We have been expecting you." She paused. "We have been analyzing your communications. We understand your concerns." The tension in the chamber was palpable, the anticipation that had been building since their arrival reaching a fever pitch. "We are not a threat." The human's words, a soft but firm declaration, resonated through the chamber. The Zidonian representative was the first to speak, its crystalline form shimmering. "You offer peace." The human smiled. It was a small gesture, but it sent a wave of relief through the delegation. "We do," the human confirmed. "We seek understanding, cooperation. A future together." The humans then began to explain themselves, their culture, their history. They were not a species of conquerors, as the Krill had believed. They were not driven by greed or by the desire for domination. They were driven by a different, less understood principle, curiosity. They desired to explore, to learn, to understand the universe and their place within it. They had observed the Accord and seen a species with potential for greatness. But they also saw the divisions, the conflicts, the lack of unity that plagued the galaxy. They sought to help foster a better future. The humans' approach to technology was surprisingly simple. They did not have the advanced, esoteric technologies that were common throughout the Accord, but they had a different advantage: versatility. They were not beholden to specific materials or energy sources and were able to adapt their technology to suit the challenges they faced. Their military strategy wasn't based on brute force, but on the use of deception, precision, and overwhelming firepower. The Krill, however, remained skeptical. "Lies, propaganda, they speak of peace, but their weapons, their fleet, is a weapon of conquest." The human woman's expression did not change. "We understand your concern, Ambassador Krell, but our fleet is not a weapon of conquest. It is a tool of protection. We have seen the dangers of the galaxy, the threats that lurk in the shadows. We are prepared to defend ourselves and to defend those who cannot." She paused. "And if the situation is as dire as you believe, we are prepared to help. We are an instrument if one is required." The humans then revealed their greatest secret, a technological marvel that was unknown to all in the galaxy. They had the ability to bend the very fabric of space and time. They had mastered the art of instantaneous travel and communication across vast distances. They could cross galaxies in moments. This revelation, more than anything else, shifted the balance of power. The Council's jaws dropped, their eyes wide with disbelief. The humans, in their seemingly primitive vessels, were not only capable of defeating the Accord's greatest warships, but they could traverse the galaxy at will. The Grand Emissary's multifaceted eyes widened with wonder and with a sudden feeling of hope. If these humans truly did have the best interests of the galaxy at heart, then they could be their greatest allies. "Show us," the Grand Emissary finally spoke, his voice hushed with awe. "Show us this miracle." The human woman nodded. "Very well, come with me." The delegation, guided by the humans, moved to a chamber at the heart of the ship. There they were presented with a device that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was a sphere of pure energy, pulsating with a light that hurt the eye. Human woman initiated the device. The sphere began to spin faster and faster, generating a vortex of energy that filled the chamber. Then the chamber vanished. They were not transported anywhere, but everywhere. They could see the entire galaxy, all its stars and planets, all its civilizations. It was a vision of unimaginable scale, of breathtaking beauty. This, the human woman said, her voice filled with quiet pride, is the quantum drive. It allows us to travel anywhere instantly. It allows us to communicate with anyone at any distance, and it allows us to protect ourselves from any threat. The Grand Emissary was speechless. The other delegates were equally stunned, their disbelief turning to amazement. The Krill, however, remained unmoved. He saw only danger in this new technology, an instrument of war waiting to be unleashed. The Xyler, their eyes alight with a newfound respect, felt the shift in power, the balance tilting towards a new era. The Zidonian collective, radiating a newfound energy, saw the opportunity to reshape the galaxy into a more unified body. The alliance was forged on that day. The humans, with their advanced technology and their commitment to peace, agreed to help the Accord. The Krill reluctantly joined, still suspicious of the humans, but knowing that they had no choice. The humans offered to share their technology to help the Accord develop its own quantum drive. They offered their support, their protection, their wisdom. In return, the Accord offered its resources, its knowledge, its friendship. The threat of the humans had turned into a promise of a new future. The alliance was barely complete when a new crisis emerged. An ancient signal, faint but persistent, had been detected coming from the edge of the galaxy. It was a signal that predated all known civilizations, a signal that hinted at a threat of unimaginable proportions. The signal spoke of a cosmic entity, a being of pure energy that sought to consume all life in the universe. "We have been monitoring this signal for some time," the human woman explained. "This is what we have prepared for, this is what we knew was coming." The Grand Emissary was shocked. The humans had known, and they had been preparing. The Krill, finally realizing the true scope of the threat, lost their skepticism. The signal was a wake-up call, a clear indication of a coming storm. The Accord and the humans, united, prepared for war. The entire galaxy was at stake. The ensuing conflict was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The cosmic entity, a being of pure destructive energy, unleashed its power upon the galaxy. The destruction, the cosmic storms, the waves of pure chaos were relentless. The combined fleets of the Accord and the humans fought valiantly, but the entity was overwhelming. The humans, using their quantum drive, deployed their ships throughout the galaxy. The humans fought side by side with the Accord, their coordinated strategy and tactical prowess turning the tide of battle. The Xyler, using their scientific knowledge, helped analyze the entity's attacks. The Krill, using their military might, launched devastating counterattacks. The Zidonians, using their understanding of energy, helped disrupt the entity's attacks. And then the impossible happened. The humans, using their quantum drive and their unique understanding of the entity, managed to disable it. They used the quantum drive to transport a weapon to the heart of the entity. The entity was consumed by its own destructive force, its reign of terror finally over. The galaxy was safe. The victory was bittersweet. The cost of the war was high. Countless worlds had been destroyed, countless lives lost. But the galaxy was united, the bonds between the Accord and the humans stronger than ever. The humans had proven themselves to be not just protectors, but allies, friends. They had fought for the galaxy, risking their lives, sharing their knowledge and their technology. The war was over, but the galaxy was forever changed. The humans, once viewed with fear and suspicion, were now hailed as heroes, protectors of the galaxy. The Accord, once divided and unsure of its future, was united in its purpose. They had a shared future now. As the Grand Emissary stood in the conclave chamber, the holographic display showing the remnants of the cosmic entity, he felt a sense of awe. The humans had not only saved the galaxy, but they had also shown them what it meant to be truly human. He smiled, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the light of a new dawn. He thought back to the first moment he had seen those crude vessels and how wrong they all had been, how very, very wrong. "The humans, they are the future," the Grand Emissary stated, his voice resonating throughout the chamber. The other delegates nodded in agreement, their faces filled with respect and admiration. "They have taught us many things. They have taught us the value of courage, of selflessness, of unity. And they have taught us that the greatest strength is not in brute force, but in the power of the mind, in the courage of the heart." The Krill, silent and somber, slowly nodded. He still didn't fully trust the humans, but he knew they were the best chance the galaxy had for a future. The Xyler, their frills now swaying gently, spoke of a future of understanding and peace. They had learned to see past the outward appearances, past the initial fear and suspicion. They had seen something that none of them had thought possible, but the story did not end there. As the Grand Emissary was finishing his speech, the holographic display flickered. A new message appeared, this time a direct transmission from the humans. "We have detected a structure," the human woman's voice stated. "A massive megastructure far beyond the reach of any known civilization. It is located at the edge of the galaxy at the boundary between dimensions. We believe it may hold the key to everything." The image on the screen changed. It showed a structure of impossible scale, of impossible design. It was a structure that was both beautiful and terrifying. It was a gate, a portal, a doorway to something unknown. The Grand Emissary looked at the image, at the unknown possibilities, and felt a surge of both dread and excitement. The humans had done the impossible. They had saved the galaxy, but they had also opened the door to something greater, something more vast, something that could change everything once again. The fate of the galaxy was once again at stake. The Grand Emissary closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought of the journey ahead, of the challenges, the unknown. He thought of the humans, the species that had shown them the true meaning of unity and sacrifice. "Then," he said, his voice filled with determination, "we venture forth. We venture forth into the unknown together." The council rose as one, a chorus of voices echoing in the grand chamber. Their voices joined together to say, "To the future, to the unknown." The humans, the Krill, the Xyler, the Zidonians, all united as one. They had overcome their differences, their fears, and they had found something greater than themselves, a shared destiny. The final image of the transmission showed a fleet, far larger than the one that had initially struck fear into the hearts of the Accord. It was a fleet of many species, united under the banner of peace. And then, as the council looked on, a second transmission appeared on the screen, a message from the ancient gate. It displayed a single word in a language that was not known to any in the galaxy. But as they saw the message, they all understood. The message said, "Welcome."